Now, Nile Gardiner. He is the director of the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. Good to see you, Nile.
Good to see you.
So, Russia says they didn't have the coordinates, but according to our Pentagon producer, the second wave of strikes, as there were two, occurred after the U.S. military called Russia on an emergency byline. So the question is, what is Russia up to? Is Russia trying to provoke a direct confrontation with the U.S., or is this all, a political chest pounding by Putin because of his disdain for President Obama?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of those factors, actually. And without a doubt here, the Russians are playing a sort of grand strategy chess game in Syria and across the Middle East. And certainly the Russians have a goal here of keeping Assad in power, limiting U.S. power in the region. Only about, I think, 30% of Russian airstrikes have been targeted against ISIS. About 70% of Russian strikes have been targeted against US-backed rebel organizations operating inside Syria, whom the Russians believe are a threat to the Assad regime. And so the Russians have been intervening quite successfully from their point of view in order to keep Assad in power, and also, of course, collaborating closely with the Iranians and even supporting Iranian-backed terrorist organizations such as Hezbollah as well. And so the Russians are playing a major game of chess, as it were, inside Syria. And they are succeeding at the moment in terms of keeping the Assad regime in power. That, of course, is also undermining the efforts of the United States and its allies to back some of the more moderate rebel groups operating inside Syria.
So that is the next question, then. If the president were to take the advice of the 51 State Department officials and order military action against Assad, calling for targeted military strikes in Syria, how can the U.S. effectively fight ISIS at its core in Syria with Russia and Iran looming? How do those countries complicate the mission to annihilate ISIS and cut off the head of the snake?
Well, it's an extremely difficult situation, and I think that Vladimir Putin and his regime have to some extent outmaneuvered President Obama. And that's what happens when the Obama administration doesn't have any clear strategy with regard to Syria. And Mr. Putin is an extremely ruthless operator, and he understands that there is a lack of projection of American power in the region. He has fully exploited that, and I think it will be down to the next president of the United States to deal with the current situation. But I think that President Obama has clearly lost the initiative in Syria. That is reflected in this sent memo by 51 State Department officials. So clearly there's a deep divide within the Obama administration itself, especially inside the State Department, and growing disillusionment actually with President Obama's leadership of the Syrian matter.
Nile, I have a follow-up question for you, but I have to go. I'm running out of time. The question would have been what needs to be done, because I'd love to hear your take on that. But can you come back and talk about that with me?
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Nile Gardiner, thank you so much.